So this is what we're making. Another 4-scroll ring, but a variation on the original one. So I've gotten my ring size, which is an R, and it's 18.76 inside diameter. We're using 2mm round wire, so that's 2076 times 3.14, comes out to 65.18, and we're going to add 15mm on either end. So slightly under 80 millimeters long. And we can just use our side cutters to cut this because it's only 2 millimeters. So 80 millimeters long, roughly. And we need 2 of these. Now we're going to file a little taper on the end, just to make it nicer, make it more aesthetic, because by cutting it with the side cutters we've got this ugly taper on the end, very sharp. So we'll just take our old wooden ring clamp, using the Swiss No. 2 cut flat hand file, and you can see that I'm not filing flat, I'm filing on a slight angle, and that taper will only be about 8 to 10 millimeters long. Now, using this ring clamp, I can just slowly rotate the wire and get a nice taper all the way around. And then just a little bit on the end, just to make sure it's not dead sharp. And then our 400 grade wet or dry sandpaper to just take our file marks off. So that's that. So do all 4, both ends of the 2 pieces of wire. And at some point, make sure that they're the same length. So when you have all 4 ends done, we're going to put the wires like this on our charcoal block and just solder right in the middle. And it has this slight curve because it was on a roll, and it's just the arc of the roll, which just saves you from having to bend it, and it keeps the ends of the wires apart so that it doesn't solder all the way up. So line the ends up, and you can do it just by using your solder pick, and flux where they touch in the middle. And then I'm going to use a 5 or 6 millimeter long piece of hard solder, and we just tuck that where the 2 wires touch. difficult part's getting it off your brush. Nice neutral flame. Dry out your flux. And if your solder bubbles out of position, wait until the flux is dry, and then you can push it back where it belongs using your solder pick. And I just touched it to make sure that the wires were touching. And I shifted the flame up so it's heating both wires equally. The flux has gone clear. The solder flowed. It looks quite good. And go ahead and make sure that the whole piece is annealed. Now flip it over. Look at the back side. Make sure that the solder has come all the way through. It has. If it hasn't, heat it up and make sure that the solder comes all the way through. So now we're just going to quench in water and pickle. And the pickle I'm using is sodium bisulfate. I know I say this all the time, but oftentimes this will be the only video that somebody watches, a beginner. And it's nice to know without having to write me a email or a comment saying, what do you use for pickle? All right, we're out of the pickle, and I'm going to hallmark next to where the solder joint is. So that'll be our inside. Now, I've marked the length of my ring shank on the card. So I'm just going to take my flat round pliers and at the small end, I'm going to bend a spiral. And then I'm going to bend another one right next to it. And you look at the length, so that's good. Now what I'm going to do is hammer this around my ring mandrel at this point, making sure my hallmarks are on the inside. Because I want to have all 4 spirals going the same direction, and the easy way to make sure that they're going the same direction is to roughly get your shape on the ring mandrel. And now I can see that if I curl these this way, they'll be the same. So now I can spread these if I want, or I can just leave them side by side. but I'll hammer it to size, the correct size, now around my ring mandrel using my rawhide hammer. So that's it. And now it's just a matter of polishing this, and you can either use your tumbler or you can just put it on a wooden ring mandrel and polish it on your wheel. Now, at this point, if you'd like, you can either leave this smooth and polish it, or you can use your planishing hammer or your jeweler's hammer to give your spirals a little bit of personality. And I'm just hammering my ring to the point that I'd marked earlier. Ta-da! Now, what I would suggest would be to take some brass or copper wire and do a few different variations of this before you start practicing on your silver. So make it shiny. Here we are out of the tumbler. Done. So this is what we're making. Another 4-scroll ring, but a variation on the original one.